Hey fairies, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Jasmine, and today we are going to be reading some spooky, scary horror stories on Reddit or online, wherever I find them at. We're going to read them because today is October 2nd. We fresh into spooky season, and I love spooky season. If you don't follow me on Instagram, I just dropped some new pictures. I'm gonna put some right here. You should go follow me on Instagram and look at them. But, we're dressed for the season. I got skeleton earrings. We got Gerald here. Just to let y'all know, I have not read any of these stories yet. I ain't even picked them yet. I'm still downloading the app. So, if they are not scary and they, that's not my fault. Because I didn't write them. I was just reading them. So, let's get straight into this video. Okay, guys. So, we found our first story. And it's pretty long. Well, it looks long for me to read, but I'm gonna read it anyway. It's real loud outside, and I'm just close the window. I got it. The first story is called An Unexpected Visitor. I'm probably gonna switch to like different little things on Reddit, so I'm not gonna stay in the same channel. Okay, he's not going right there. Gerald is here. Y'all can just feel his presence. He's here. The story is called An Unexpected Visitor. I said that already, but I'm gonna say it again. Every year I like to take my family on vacation so that we can all have an all-enjoyable week of relaxation and bonding time together. We usually stay in hotels, but after having a third kid with my wife, we decided that it would be best to stay in a house. Since our 7-month-old son would cry often and throw tantrums most nights, I've never stayed in an Airbnb before, but I decided I would give it a shot since my coworkers spoke highly of it. After getting used to navigating the site, I started to narrow down my search with a couple cities that my wife and I thought would be nice. I was excited when I found a beautiful house that went for a decently low nightly rate that was just a short walk away from the ocean. In addition, there were shopping plazas where we would be able to get our groceries for the week just a short drive away. I looked over the host rating on the website, who was a middle-aged man named Tom, and was very happy to see that he was constantly giving a 5-star rating. I booked the house for 7 days and officially planned the trip. After a super long car ride, we finally pulled up to the house around 10:30 p.m. on the Friday we scheduled to check in. The house was pitch black and surrounded by woods, which gave off a bit of an eerie vibe. We followed the emailed instructions given to us from Tom to get into the house. We typed in the garage code and walked to the safe in the corner of the garage to enter the code to get the key. We got inside without much trouble and began unpacking. The house was huge, having 6 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms, which was quite an upgrade compared to our home with 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. My wife and I noticed that the air smelled musty inside, but we just assumed that nobody else stayed here the week prior. I don't know. If y'all into true crime or things like that, every time they smell a off smell, you know what it is. But he said the air smelled musty. He ain't say it was like that, but yeah, I'm just keep reading. I don't know what I'm talking about. We all brought our luggage up the stairs and picked out our rooms. Our 2 sons stayed in the same bedroom at the end of the hall, while my wife and I took the master bedroom, putting our baby in the room directly next to us. We were all exhausted from all the traveling, and we probably went to bed around 11:30. At some point during the night, I was awakened to hear my son talking to my mom next to our bed, saying that he heard scary noises. So my wife calmed him down and tucked him back into bed. This wasn't something uncommon since our sons were both 5 years old and would often get spooked at night. I dozed off again quickly. Again, I was awakened to both of my sons running in our room crying. They both insisted that they heard footsteps coming from above them. So I decided I'd flip on the lights to get up and walk around with them to show them that they were safe and nothing was there. After doing this, they finally relaxed and laid back down into bed. After I closed the door, I checked around again, feeling a little concerned. I opened the door by the rooms that led to the attic and I walked up the steps to see that the door at the top of the stairs was locked, which didn't surprise me. First of all, I would not be going in no attic. But that's just me though. Me personally. Within minutes after crawling back into bed, I heard loud screaming coming from my son's room. I flew out of bed and sprinted down the hallway, opening the door to their room. Flipping on the lights, I saw my sons laying on their beds, hiding under the covers. I walked over to them and asked them what was wrong, and their response was very unsettling to hear. My one son told me that he heard the door creak open and there was a shadow of someone staring at him right outside his room. Something about the tone in his voice and the terrified look in his eyes worried me. I typically wouldn't think something like this was true, considering they both get night terrors and were staying in a foreign place, but with it being the third time now, I couldn't help but believe them. By now, my wife was standing in the room with us, and she heard everything. So I asked her to take everyone into our room. Now I have a concealed carry license and always carry my gun with me, but I left it back at home. So why would you put that information in there? It's at home. You can't do nothing with it. Alright, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna shut up. If this is a true story, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that I'm over here talking shit. I feel bad now. Okay. And always carry my gun with me, but I left it back at home, not thinking I needed. I regretted not having it with me, but I knew I had to search the house. I would have went downstairs in that kitchen. Would have got the biggest knife I saw. And after I get the biggest knife I saw, I'm gonna get a backup knife, because what if they take your first knife and try to stab you with it? Then you got the backup knife. And then, yeah, you just gotta be quick, because if they stab you with the first knife, you ain't gonna have time to pull out your backup knife. So you gonna have to think about that yourself. I ain't came up with a plan for that, but let's continue. As I crept downstairs to the main floor in the dark, I felt scared since it was pretty pitch black and completely quiet. The sound of my breath and light footsteps were the only sounds I can hear, which felt loud despite my efforts to stay quiet. I knew the light switch was somewhere at the bottom of the staircase, but I fumbled around in the dark for a minute until I finally found it and flipped it on. My jaw dropped as I looked around and noticed that the front door to the house was wide open. I knew I had made sure that the doors were all closed and locked. Before we went to bed, I slammed the door shut, locking it again, and ran upstairs to tell my wife and kids as I locked the master bedroom behind me. So what I'm thinking is, well, they have to go in through the garage, didn't they? Well, the owner, what's his name, Tom probably went up in there, and the reason why he got 5-star reviews is because he killed the people that rent his place, and then he took their phone and then he put, oh, this Airbnb is great, oh, you have to stay here. That's what he did. I bet that's what he did. She dialed 911 and they said that they would have officers there soon. They lying. We were instructed to stay inside the room no matter what. Even though it was now around 2:30 in the morning, I thought I'd call the Airbnb owner to let him know that there was some sort of break-in. I dialed his number and I put it on speaker so that my wife could hear him too if he picked up. What we heard next still haunts me to this day. A faint ringing coming from above us in the attic, sounding as I called him. My wife and I both looked at each other in total shock, knowing that the house owner's phone was in the attic. At that point, it's fuck the police coming straight from the underground. And your nigga got it bad because I'm brown. No, I'm just kidding. It's I'm going home. Y'all got y'all car outside. Get your 3 little kids and your little wife and get in that little car and go to little home. Go home. Thankfully, the police arrived minutes after and we explained everything that had happened. We booked a hotel that night, which was a short drive away from the Airbnb, and enjoyed the rest of our vacation, wondering if they obtained any information. It turns out Tom, the owner of the Airbnb, was in the attic that night walking around, which explains why our sons kept hearing the noises. He snuck down and opened the door to our son's room, but then hid as my wife and I got up after hearing our son screaming. As we passed one of the rooms on the way down the hall, he must have crept down the stairs and ran away. Finally, we learned that the attic had several monitors hooked up to secret cameras around the house, so he was able to see and hear everything. It was quite a horrifying experience as a first-time Airbnb guest, and I plan on only renting hotels from now on. That explains a lot, but it does not explain how he got all those 5-star reviews, because it sounds like he did this before, like he used to doing this. So either he made little fake accounts and he put his own 5-star, or he did what I said earlier. No, I'm just kidding. And then they didn't explain the smell that they were smelling. They didn't explain that either. Like, it's a lot of stuff in the story that has not been explained, but that was actually a good story, y'all. I'm glad I read that one. Let's get into the next story. So our next story, it is in the paranormal stories category. It is called Mom, Dad, Is That You? This is something that actually happened to me. Girl, she said it with an explanation point. She said, this is something that actually happened to me. Okay, I'm sorry. This was maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I was still living with my parents and I had already graduated. I was a teenager that works nights and had nothing better to do. So of course I always stayed up all night and slept most of the day until work. Well, I noticed odd things happen when Mom and my siblings were gone. My dad worked nights as well and was almost always home too, but sleeping as well. For the next night at work, I began to notice I'd often wake up to what sounded exactly like my mom or dad yelling for me from downstairs. Of course, I'd get up and be thinking Mom got off early or Dad just couldn't sleep. I come down the steps starting a convo and literally no one would be there. I'd even pop open the basement door, my parents' room, to see if Dad was even up. Most of the time, he wasn't even awake. I often brushed it off thinking it was just me dreaming about one of them waking me up, you know? Well, one day, I woke up to my mom calling my name. Same drill as before, but this time, I couldn't get up. I couldn't even move. I could move my eyes to look around, but that was it. During the day, the sun would shine right into my room, so it was never dark. But this time, it was almost pitch black, with only the slightest bit of light slipping through my window by my closet. I saw this shadow thing grinning in the darkness by my closet. It felt like an eternity that I laid up there, paralyzed with fear. I was being held down. The moment I was able to move, I ran out of my room. As it turned out, my dad wasn't even home. He was out running errands and I was terrified. Not long after I had moved out, my father and I were at my grandmother's house and got on track of paranormal experiences. Well, I had never told anyone about my experience at home. My dad started telling me his story and it was literally the same as mine. He would hear my mom call his name and no one would be home. He even described the thing that would hold him down as well. So glad I moved out. Now, this story, I love this story. If y'all didn't see me looking around, y'all, I didn't scare myself. The shadow from the ring light is right here. I didn't scare myself. But I like this story. But she took action. She got up out of there. She moved out. She said, it's time for me to go.